G'day friends, welcome to today's YouTube video. My name is James. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new as well. Hello. Today I'm going to be doing the Candy Palace, a bit of an urban sketch. Candy Palace from Main Street, USA on Disneyland. I am right in the middle of the Art Journaling the Magic Spring 2021 retreat. It's a world of hopes. And I just come back from a from like an afternoon art journal party, live on Zoom, of course. And I think I have misinterpreted this lesson, but it's fine. I've misinterpreted it in the best way possible in that I've had a really great time with my misinterpretation. So we were simplifying buildings because a lot of Art Journaling the Magic has got a lot of urban sketching and, taking in all of the details of the parks and all of the art direction, all the, creative concepts that kind of form Disney parks. And, using that as a way to reference when we journal as well. And this retreat is It's a World of Hopes. So it's very small world themed. When I say themed, it's like, how I theme things too. It's like very loose interpretations, artistic license galore. You can pretty much do whatever floats your boat. And I do mean that, that pun. If you get it. If you don't get it, don't worry about it. Anyway, so this is Candy Palace from Main Street, USA, and I'm doing it in the style of concept art from It's a Small World. So if you've ever seen that It's a Small World building, the facade, or even inside as well, if you've ever seen concept art for that, it's very geometric, almost looks like tangrams. It's just shapes, flat 2D shapes stacked on top of each other like building blocks. And it's really interesting, and I love concept art, I really do. And it's something that I've kind of studied before the It's a Small World one, because I did teach a lesson back in 2019, ironically, where everyone was on It's a Small World and it started torrential downpour and they came out to a waterfall at the exit. I was so glad I did not get it on that day. So it's one of my favorite Art Journaling the Magic stories. But that time I had actually taught an It's a Small World facade and how to break it down into the simple building block shapes. Mainly because that is something that I do for myself. It's in my whimsical illustration course, if you've seen that before. I think it's called Building Blocks, that lesson. But I break everything down into really simple shapes to draw it. And, I stack those simple shapes on top of each other until they become more complex, forms. They become the drawing. But this one's a really great, this was a really great exercise because it kind of stops at the simple drawings. And then not only that, because I'd studied some of that inspiration before, those concept art drawings for It's a Small World, I'm really familiar with some of the motifs and design elements, like the different patterns, the different shapes, the different kind of, how would you say, like the different representations of things, like what a window looks like when Mary Blair sketches it really quickly, or what kind of little spire detail Rolly Crump would have put into the design wow the design aesthetic of those buildings. So it's actually been really, really interesting to revisit that. I do, like, coming back from the journal party this afternoon, I do think the lesson was supposed to be just simplifying the buildings and using patterns, which is also a really great thing to do, and I really love that idea as well. But I think I took the interpretation a little too far. But I do have a lot of fun with these. So I've done a few. I've done the firehouse. I've done the railway, like the entrance. What's it called? The building. What is that called? Anyway, it's the railroad building that you see when you come into the parks at Disneyland. And then this is the Candy Palace. Before in the past, I've done similar techniques. If you were in my Patreon, do you remember a video called Disney in Detail? That is where, because in the actual, in my whimsical illustration course, I do break down for the lesson where I'm talking about like the simple shapes. I broke down the Disneyland castle because that was something that I kind of always struggled with. And so I broke that down. But then when I went to the park for Patreon, we filmed a video where we went and gathered all the different little elements around the park. So basically the castle was broken down into like 12 squares, 15 rectangles, 3 triangles, 1 semicircle. Those were all the shapes that you could build it back up with, very two-dimensionally. But when we went around the park, we would go and collect the different shapes. So for one of the, I think for one of the triangles, I had one of the hedges that was spiral, kind of the topiary spiral hedges. And then for one of the rectangles, I think I had a trash can. I know for the triangle, we had the sign that hangs out of the store, the toy store in Batu in the new Star Wars land. Anyway, so that was a really fun thing to do as well. And then we essentially like built the castle back up with all those little findings. So it was all the details of the park that, typically go unnoticed when you're running from ride to ride. But that's kind of the thing that we really learn to appreciate in Art Journaling the Magic retreats is like all of this simple or like really crazy details that go into things that people don't even realize are there. So that was a really great way to kind of celebrate that. All of that to say, I'm very familiar with this process, and it just never occurred to me to try it in this style before until Tanji had suggested it. So thank you, Tanji, for that idea. I don't know if that was the suggestion, though. I'm just going to say it. Tanji gets credit for whether it was her idea or not. But I do think I misinterpreted it a little bit. But again, I had a great time. So is it wrong? No. But anyway, so that is something that I was really familiar with, and I've had a really great time with it. And I thought I would share it with you today, just in case you hadn't seen anything like that before, or if you were curious to watch that process come together. I rarely work with the ruler on my page like this. I mean, you can even see I've skipped using the ruler for this section. But I finished this neatly. I even got my watercolors out, and I did a really neat job of painting it all. I do, contrary to popular belief, I do sometimes get into that mood where I want to do something that is neat, that is clean, that is finished, and very simple. Usually it's more is more is more is more, and throw any supply that's on my desk at the page, which I do enjoy a lot of the time as well. But this is also very satisfying to me, and I know a lot of the time, especially when we're teaching, we do usually say that, don't overthink it, don't get too precious, don't do all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then we always kind of say, like, unless that's you, in which case, do whatever pleases you. And so I thought this would be a good thing to show you today, that sometimes that is me. It's not often, like it's a little more rare than it used to be. I used to be like this all the time. Everything had to be kind of neater and finished and clean. And if it had a straight line, I had to use a ruler. It's only been more recently, probably since Tanji made me brave enough to try contour drawing at Art Journaling the Magic, that I've actually loosened up, and now I'll just draw anything in any way, and it's all a lot more fun for me. So I have a lot to be thankful for regarding Art Journaling the Magic. I hope if you're over there in the retreat, you're having a wonderful time as well, and please, even if you're not in the retreat, like I don't really mind, you can have a go at anything you see on my channel. Obviously, this is all inspired by something that's already out there that you could see anyway, so you could put your own interpretation on it. But yeah, it's been really, really fun to dive back into that concept art. Disney concept art, not only for movies, but for the parks and everything, is one of my favorite sources of inspiration, because it's generally a very collaborative process. And so you're seeing the culmination of kind of like this group creativity, which is just very synergistic. It always feels like, it's just super leveled up when tons of different people's best ideas all kind of culminate in this one project, or this one, It's a Small World facade, or how all the characters are dressed inside there. It's just really fantastic. So it's something that I do feel as far as being in online retreats as well, when we have that kind of sharing mentality, that peer-to-peer sharing. I feel like the ideas only get better when people start building off of those as well. So, I might start this here, and then someone else might see this and say, oh, I love that, I'm going to try it with this spin on it, because this is a spin that I've been working with. And then suddenly I think, wow, that's amazing, I'll try it again with your spin, and I also think of this. And do you know what I mean? I think it's just this really nice, cumulative creativity. I better not get too meta here because I'm almost at the end of my video, and you know I'll start a 45-minute conversation about community and creativity, which I do love. Anyway, so this is the final piece. Very simple, very clean. I absolutely love it. I've got so much of my book left. I hope to finish most of it, even though we're almost done with the retreat. I'll try my best. Yeah, thank you for watching for today. Hope to see you again very soon. Bye.